Hello everyone, so today I'm going to do a quick demo on how to personalize based upon goals and show how to trigger goals in different ways. The two ways I'm going to focus on majority in this tutorial is triggering a goal based upon a URL, in this case a query string value, versus triggering a goal in the more common way, which is when a certain page is hit, a goal is triggered at that point. Now, the first way, like I said, with the query string, that's a less common way that a lot of people don't know about. That's the main reason why I want to actually do this tutorial, was to showcase that method. That method is very useful in a certain scenario that I can think of, is when you're working maybe with a custom form that I've showed in the past. I've done some videos on custom forms. If you want to trigger a specific goal at the completion of that form. Previously, with web forms markers, you would do this via a custom save action that would trigger a goal. But if you don't have that ability, obviously, and you still want to trigger a goal, you could write something custom to trigger a goal on the end of the control actions post method is hit. You could look at what's been submitted, go through the submission process, sending emails, submitting the information to a database, etc., and then dynamically setting a goal, which is another way which I'll show in the future. But if you're in a scenario where you don't really want to go down that route, that seems like a lot of effort. Really, there's a really simple approach to this, and that is when you've got a form such as a registration form, at the completion of that form, when you click submit, you can actually redirect it to a page such as a page with a specific goal selected as the query string value. So you could say at the end of the registration page, complete the form, click submit, redirects you to the thank you page with the query string of the goal that you want to trigger. So that's a great scenario of when you might want to use the query string method. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is basically set up all the case scenarios. What I'm going to do is set up some goals. I'm going to deploy those goals out to XDB and out to the requirements, publishing those out. And then we are also going to look into setting up some personalization rules so that we can actually see the goals being triggered without actually looking at XDB to check the user to see if the goals have been triggered. And then lastly, what I want to do is I'm going to show how to trigger the goal via the URL, but I'm also going to show how to configure a goal to be triggered by page using the attributes and the goals commands up in Content Editor. Lastly, I want to just do a quick demo of all the things we've configured and then show that all this stuff is working. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and first off show where we would configure goals at. So to do that, there's two places or two ways to get to it. There's a marketing control panel, which is basically when you click this button inside the Launchpad, it's going to load up a content editor experience that's just going to contain the marketing control panel. That's it. But there's another way. If you go over to the content editor and you click on that and you go to system and you go to marketing control panel, you basically have the same interface. It doesn't matter. It's focused or scoped to this when you click on the marketing control panel in the Launchpad versus having all of the content tree available to you if you go through the content editor. So the next thing is actually we're going to start defining goals. There's two goals that I wanted to define for this. So the first one is going to be called a page goal. And the second one is going to be called querystring, to basically represent the two goals that I plan, or two methods of triggering the goals that I want to showcase in this tutorial. Once you create a goal, you actually need to deploy those. So if you go to the review tab, you can click on deploy. Give it some sort of comment if you want to, or you can just click OK. And the same for querystring, you must also deploy it. And notice it gives you a message saying, if you publish now, the selected version will not be visible on the website. It's because this is not in a final workflow state. So these use workflow just like you would configure workflow for other parts of the content tree. All right, the goals are set up and ready to go. The next part is configuring the home page of the site to have personalization rules so that we can demonstrate that goals are being triggered. So to access personalization rules for the current items presentation details, you can either do that via the experience editor or you can do it from the content editor's presentation details. You can either click on basic or edit. They'll basically end up at the same device editor interface. And then we're going to click on over to the controls tab or item section. So the component that we want to personalize today in this tutorial is the articles card. So I'm going to, and just to recap, this is a component that shows cards or articles that you can set a data source for, and whatever data source you point it to is going to show that content, that article. So what I can do is click on personalize, and now you can see the default rule is that there is no data source set. So the default is it's going to be basically blank. You can also click hide and it will hide this block by default, which probably is better. So the next thing is we want to define two personalization rules. The first one is page triggered, and the other one is the querystring trigger. So the querystring trigger, I'm going to trigger the article Create Glass Mapper Models with Leprechaun, which is a great tutorial that I wrote on my blog recently. The second one, I'm going to set the data source to my MVP journey, which I haven't written yet and should be writing at some point. I always thought I would once I became MVP, but I never did, or I have yet to write one. The next thing that we need to do is define the rules that would decide when these would display. So for the querystring trigger, what I want to do is I'm going to search for goal, and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to select it twice. So I want the querystring trigger to only trigger when the querystring goal has been triggered and not when the page trigger or goal has been triggered. That's a tongue twister. So I'm going to select the querystring, so where querystring was triggered during the current vision, and except where the page has been triggered. So basically, it will only run and work and use that data source if the querystring goal has been triggered, not if the other one has. So I can click OK. And then the next one I want to define is I want the page trigger to only run when the page and the querystring goal has successfully been hit. So what I can do is search for goal again and just click this twice. And so now I'm going to keep the where and where in place, and I'm just going to select querystring and page. And that's it. These are all ready to go. I'll click OK. Notice I have 3 personalization rules. Technically, I only have 2. One is the default. Click OK. OK. Save. And then finally, the last thing I need to define is the page that will be triggered, or the page that will trigger the page goal. So what I want to do, the kind of flow I want to have here is when somebody comes to the site for the first time, they're going to basically see let's go on over here. They're going to see these are going to be present, but there's actually the article block or the article card component that I had actually sits over here. Right now, by default, it's empty and it's going to hide that component. But as soon as I pass in a query string that triggers the goal to be hit or triggered, it's going to show the first personalization rule, which was I believe it was the Create Glass Mapper Models with Leprechaun. So as soon as that gets hit, it's going to show that as a it's going to show it right off the bat over here on the right because that personalization rule has been hit and is valid, meaning it will show that data source. So then the next thing I'm going to do is click on that link, go on over to the page. When I hit the page, it's going to trigger the second goal to be hit, which is our page goal. Once that's hit, I will navigate back to the home page, and what I should now see is the second article displayed, the journey to my Sitecore MVP. So let's go ahead and go on to the Create Glass Mapper model, Models with Leprechaun, and I'm going to select the Analyze, and I'll click Goals. This is how I would assign goals to this page. So when this page is hit, these goals are triggered. So I'm going to select the page one that I created earlier, click OK, save, and now everything should be set to go. What I want to do is just do a quick publish of the site, just make sure everything I've been working on is ready to go, and so I'm ready to run this demonstration. So let's go over to example, click enter. The first thing you'll notice is nothing's being displayed because I haven't passed in a query string. I haven't passed via the query string a goal to be triggered. Also, I haven't hit a page yet. If I went to this page, it actually wouldn't be triggered yet because there would be nothing displaying here, because this would, in order to see the page personalization, I need both these goals to be triggered. So something else to keep in mind. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and trigger this goal via a query string. So what I need is a GUID for it. So I need the goals GUID, or the goals item ID. I need to get that item ID, and I need to pass it in via the query string. So to do that, I will just go to the market control panel, goals, and I will click on querystring. Copy. And now I will paste it. So now once I hit enter, what I should now see is the first article display over here on the right. It should be the Create Glass Mapper Models with Leprechaun. And just like that, it's been triggered. So therefore, this personalization rule, the first one, is now returning true. So it's showing that data source. So now what should happen when I click on this link is it should trigger the second goal. Basically, I'm going to have two goals assigned to this user. I'm going to have the goal for the query string as well as the goal for the page. So now I'm over to the article, and now the next thing I'm going to do this to demonstrate is go back to the home page. What I should finally see is that I should have the journey to my Sitecore MVP article listed on the right, because now both goals are set or triggered. And as I said, there is journey to my Sitecore MVP. So now we are triggering both goals, and that's essentially the topic of this tutorial. So if you have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out. Please subscribe. I really appreciate all the subscriptions. I haven't done a video in probably about a month or so, and I've definitely increased a lot of subscribers in that time. I definitely, it motivates me to keep doing these videos. So please subscribe, like, comment, any questions, anything. Interactions are great because I try to get to everybody that has questions. So thank you.